Alright, good morning everybody. What are we going to do today for a shop project? Well, I need to make a hanger or some kind of a hanging device for my torches, for my MIG welder, my plasma cutter, my oxyacetylene, and I thought a good start, I picked this up out at Harbor Freight for about $3. There we go. It's a 3-inch diameter magnet, 95 pounds pole magnet. Item number 96650. Anyway, look at that, man. That sucker is just strong. Alright, let's get some scrap steel and let's see what we can come up with for today's project and how we're going to fasten it and build it, and I'm going to just do it on the fly. Here we go. Hang on. Okay, here's some scrap steel pieces that I just went and grabbed out of the scrap bin, and I tend to use every little bit I can until it gets down to next to nothing, and I throw them in the trash. I don't recycle the steel. But if I come across steel that somebody else has scrapped out, I tend to go ahead and pick it up, bring it home. Sometimes I cut it up, depends, small pieces and stuff I leave laying around. And eventually, it could be months, who knows, I get around to using them for projects. Try not to get too overwhelmed with it, but this is the scrap steel right in front of me that we're going to use today. Give me a few minutes to play around and I'm going to think about how we're going to put this together and make this. But just grab some scrap steel, get it from your scrap yard if there's a junkyard close by. Old bed frame rails from, you know, like Angel View and thrift marts and stuff like that. Sometimes they got mismatched bed frame rails. You can get those, you can cut up the angle iron, and if not, you can go to your supplier and you can actually just flat out buy it. But this is scrap I have laying around. Let's see what we can come up with. I'll be right back. Okay, like I said, we're gonna wing this along. I took a chalk line on this big fat piece of steel I had. I drew a line. Now I'm gonna cut this in half on both sides. I'm not being real particular that it's got to be dead on center. I just want a nice arc, and I'm going to use that to lay these torches in. So that's one thought of how I want to do it. I want to be able to set in a multitude of torches. So I want one torch holder that fits everything. So let me cut this. I'll show you how we're going to do it. I'm going to do it with a 4.5-inch angle grinder, which is right here, and it's got just a standard cutoff blade on there. And I'm just going to go right down this line. It's going to make a lot of noise, so I'm going to shut the camera off till I cut through it. I'll be right back. Okay, so I use that 4.5-inch angle grinder and I cut these into 2 halves. So I don't know the length I want it yet, but I know this will make a nice little cradle. But you got all these sharp edges and everything on here, and I'm going to show you. I bought a new tool, kind of, or a new way to grind, play around with these, and I wanted to try it out. I was looking for a good reason to try out this new tool. Let me set it up. I'll show it to you. And I think we'll use this one right here for the cradle. We'll decide the length of it later, but right now let's just clean it up and we'll go from there. Hang on one moment. Okay, so what I have here is I have one of these die grinders or air grinders, and this is a Cobalt. Got it out at Lowe's, got them while they were on sale. I don't remember the price, but online I've been using a lot of these in my metal fabrication and playing around. I got one of these pads. It's got that True Lock snap lock ring on it, whatever you want to call it. And I picked up from online, I picked up some of these. I got a whole bag full. These are 60 grit sanding discs, and I wanted to try them. They're from a new manufacturer. They're from a company called Catco. Got a little bit of a discount on them for wanting to try them. I wrote them, asked them a question. So anyway, I ended up with these. They're 60 grit. I'm just going to try them. We'll take it down. This is a 3-inch pad, and I've got this little one right here. It's about a 1-inch, 1.5-inch pad. I don't use this very often. I use this with 3M pads, and I use it to derust things and all that. But let's go ahead and hook this up. We'll try it. I'll be right with you. Okay, so you can see from the picture, I went ahead and I ground down all these edges, and I'll give you a little demo here in a minute. I had to hook it up, play around with it. I broke one of the discs right off of the bat, so I don't want to give it an unfair review, so we got out another one. And I realized they didn't tighten up the arbor on any of these things, so I tightened everything up real good. With these True Lock pads, you have to crank it on there hard, because unless you set your air regulator to about 90, let's say between 90 and 100, I don't. I run it straight off of the compressor, but it's more or less a variable speed switch on that Cobalt. I can kind of gauge my speed and not go overboard and exceed the rating, or the capacity of the wheel. Here we go. I ground it up. I'll give you a little demo here. Show you. Just like that. Took all the sharp edges off, rounded off these corners everywhere. Now I'm going to hook up my drill with a wire wheel because I want to clean everything up. It's just the way I do it. You don't have to, I suppose, but I'm going to clean it up real quick. I'll be right back. I'll show you. Okay, here we go. Just a simple wire wheel on a drill. No sense in you watching me do the wire wheel. I'll be right back. Okay, I did the outside with the wire wheel. I got it pretty darn clean. Look at that, man. I got the look at that. I got the inside of this looking real good. So now we're ready to go on and try to figure out how we're going to do this, and then eventually what length I want to make this for the holder. What's the difference? Somebody asked me, why not use brass? Well, I do use brass wheels sometimes. They scratch less. I don't really care, I guess, on this project if it scratches or not. I'll wipe it with acetone, coat it with primer, and put something on it for paint for the heck of it. Anyway, let's move on. Let me line up some things and I'll give you an explanation from there. Okay, what I've decided right now, and I'm going to try, and I can always tear it apart because we're going to tack weld in case we have to knock it apart. Scrap piece of angle iron, I'm going to weld it right on here. I'll make sure it's nice and level. I'll put a level here. And I'm going to put it on at an angle, just about like that. I like the height for my workbench. So somewhere about right in the middle, right here. And I'll tilt it like this, and I'll play around until I get it for the feel that I want. Then I'm going to tack weld it, then I'm going to set the torches in it. And then I'm going to decide, do I want to leave it that long, do I need to tear it apart, or what do I want to do? So for right now, hold on a minute, I got to get the MIG welder set up, and we'll kind of zap this thing together and see what happens. Okay, got a little bit of a mistake here. I realized after I set things up, you can't really weld to this. So it's I don't know, it's not the kind of material you can weld to. So to get around that, I made this little piece of steel here to set right on there, and then I have this bolt washers. I'm going to run it up right through the bottom here, so we'll try it, see what happens. It should work. So I think we'll do it the other way. Okay, let's take a look at this here. Worked out pretty well. I put a washer in here and I put a bolt. I put the nut and I tightened it up. Now I'm going to grind this off with that cutoff wheel. Then I'll use this to weld to and we'll go up. I made this snug, but not so snug that if I wanted to with force I could kind of pivot it a little bit. You can loosen it up if you use this lock washer. Let's see. And this becomes, you know, I'm going to weld it so it won't ever loosen. But you make it snug and then you can rotate this. So I thought, well, that'd be a good idea. So let's try it. I'll be right with you. Okay, so we went ahead and did that, and I welded it here, and I'm going to clean it up with that air grinder here in just a sec. Just clean it off a little bit, and then we'll start putting the vertical. But see, with a little bit more than just tugging force, I can move this if I have to, and it'll tighten. There, it's real tight. The other way would tighten it up, but at least it's a little bit movable, which I kind of like that idea. I might use this. I might use the bigger heavy duty stuff. I probably don't need to. Probably I could just get away with this bed rail stuff. It'd probably work. Maybe look a little better. It's not as huge and bulky. Alright, I'll be right back. I'm going to clean this up. We'll go from there. Okay, changed my mind. I went with the larger stuff right here. A little hot. But and it's on. Yeah, let me put it down this way. Okay, anyway, I went with the larger stuff. So now, and I welded it right down here. Now I'm going to weld this on Something like that, and I'll be right back. I'm just going to guess at it. There's no exact angles, it's just what feels comfortable for me. Right back. Okay, so welded it on there at the angle that I thought, and I thought, okay, let's try it and see if I need to shorten this or what I need to do. There we go. Turned out pretty damn good. So if you're wondering, well, what's the measurement, because you want to make one or whatever, you can wing it like I'm just doing, or this is almost 8 inches. Yeah, almost 8 inches. What's the pipe size? It's probably 2-inch ID pipe. Get it out at Lowe's, Home Depot, what have you. Angle iron height, I came up about 8 inches. I showed you how I did the base. Okay, so, but this isn't my only torch. So I put this to the side. Now I already set the plasma cutter on there. It's almost the same size as the MIG. But look at this. Okay. If I turn this up to set it in there, if I want to do this, it works good because it'll blow the flame out of the way for me, and I'm okay, because tips up here, shooting down, I'm fine with that. But it's sloppy in here. You do that, it'll do that on you. So as a safety, we're going to build a little piece. I'm going to bring it right off of the bottom here underneath. I'll hide it, and I'll put a crossbar and bend them up, and then that should hold these back handles. You'll see in a minute. But for right now, I took this little piece of 1/4-inch cold rolled, and I'm going to just weld it right in here like this. That's all I'm going to do right now, and I'll be right back and we'll go from there. Okay, you can see the little welded pigtail. Now I'm just going to set the torch in there like it was, and then this piece of wrought iron here that was left laying around, I looked and I figured, okay, look, if I weld that right about like that, this is nice and secure. So I'm going to weld that in next, just like that, and I'll be right back. Okay, let's recap. I put this on here and I rounded off all these edges. There's no sharp edges on here. Rounded off everything. Now when I set the torch up in there, it locks almost in there perfectly. So if I had it still going, it's very safe. And I have down here, when I didn't tighten that lock nut all the way and then I welded it, I've still got room right there. It locks, and right there it starts to lock. So I've got about 1/3 of a turn or something, which I really like, because if I needed just to tweak it, if I was heating up something and then get it out of the way, I can. And it's secure right in here. This is great. And then of course the MIG torch and the plasma cutter, they just drop right into the cradle. Okay, what are we going to do next, and then we'll wrap this up. I'm going to wipe it down with acetone. I'm going to put a coat of primer on it, let it dry, and then I'll see what leftover rattle can of something I got laying around and paint it. I'll be back in a few minutes and we'll wrap it up. Okay, here's kind of a final shot of it. I'll try to remember to take some stills and throw them in at the end. So what did I do? I cleaned up with acetone. I got some fast drying primer, knocked down a few things here and there, and I looked over and I had this kind of a John Deere green. It's a little bit darker. I had some cans left over of it. I might as well use them. Doesn't really matter. It's not a beauty contest, right? It's just another tool. So okay, we're going to wrap it up. What happened is the camera battery died on me, but luckily right at the end. So this is an easy project for you to do. Take a look at this. I've got a picture over here to my left. And so one of the questions was, hey, how can I weld this if I don't have a MIG welder? Well, maybe you have oxyacetylene, TIG, or some other means, but it's an easy project. Most people, I think, have MIG welders nowadays because it's easier, but you know, whatever you have, I mean, go ahead and use it. Scrap steel. You can tell when you look at these welds. I'm not a professional welder, but the welds are good, and you can grind them down with the tools that I showed you. It's a quick, easy project. So we're going to wrap this one up. I hope you learned something from it, or if you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll see you on the next video. You folks have a good day. Bye-bye. Don't forget to click subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.